Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Always exciting to dive into a new topic.
And today we're looking at something pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely different.
It's this idea of dying with zero.
Dying with zero.
Yeah, so it's not about literally having $0 when you die.
Okay.
It's more of a philosophy about how we approach our resources, time, money, all of that.
So, how to live your life to the fullest.
Exactly. And we're going to be looking at a book called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins.
I've heard of this book.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot of buzz.
What's the main idea?
Well, Perkins argues that we should be focusing on creating memorable experiences throughout our lives, not just saving up for some distant retirement.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know time is precious, right?
Exactly. And he actually says this in the book. Let me see if I can find the exact quote.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, here it is. If you spend hours and hours of your life acquiring money and then die without spending all of that money, then you've needlessly wasted too many precious hours of your life.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, it's a real wake-up call, isn't it?
So, it's not about being reckless with money, but more about being intentional with how we use it.
Right. It's about aligning our spending with our values and making sure we're not putting off living until it's too late.
So, how does Perkins suggest we do that?
Well, he lays out 9 rules in the book,
Yeah.
kind of like a framework for this die with zero philosophy.
9 rules, huh? Okay, I'm ready. Let's break them down.
Sounds good. So let's imagine we have a listener out there, maybe in their 30s, just starting their career, feeling that pull between building financial security and, actually enjoying life.
I think we can all relate to that at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how would Perkins's first rule, maximizing positive life experiences, speak to this person?
Well, it's all about figuring out what truly brings you joy right now and not waiting until some far off retirement to pursue it.
Like, don't just plan for a big trip when you're 65. Find ways to have those experiences throughout your life.
Right, exactly. It's about being proactive, not passive.
So what stands out to you about this idea of actively seeking those experiences?
I think a lot of us get so caught up in our daily routines and obligations that we forget to ask ourselves what really makes us happy.
It's like we're on autopilot.
Exactly. We're just going through the motions, and Perkins is saying, hey, wake up and start living intentionally.
I love that. And you know what? This reminds me of a time when I quit my corporate job to travel and pursue my passion for photography.
Wow, that's a big leap.
It was scary, but the experiences I had and the personal growth I went through were priceless.
That's a great example of Perkins' second rule, investing in experiences early.
It is, isn't it? And speaking of that experience, did taking that risk influence your financial decisions later on?
Yeah.
Definitely, it taught me to value experiences over material possessions and to see money as a tool to enable those experiences.
I like that perspective.
Yeah, it made me much more comfortable with taking calculated risks and investing in my passions.
So, kind of shifting your mindset from saving for the future to investing in the present.
Exactly. And that brings us to Perkins' third rule, aiming to die with zero, which is
Yeah.
where things get really interesting.
This is the one that everyone talks about, right?
It is. And it's the one that can be a little controversial too.
So, for our listener in their 30s who's probably thinking, wait, isn't saving for the future important? How do we explain this without making it sound like reckless abandon?
That's the key. It's not about ending up broke or neglecting your financial responsibilities. It's about being thoughtful with your resources and making sure you're living a full life.
Right. It's about using your money to create a lasting legacy, not just hoarding it until you die.
Exactly. So it's not about spending lavishly on things you don't need. It's about being intentional with your spending and aligning it with what truly matters to you.
It's about recognizing that experiences and relationships are often more valuable than a big bank account at the end of life.
I think that's a really important distinction to make.
It is. So, how does Perkins suggest we practically approach this die with zero idea?
That's where his fourth rule comes in. Use all available planning tools.
Planning tools.
Yeah, things like life expectancy calculators, budgeting apps, anything that can help you get a clearer understanding of your financial timeline.
Ah, okay. So, like using those resources to make informed decisions about how you allocate your money.
Exactly. So for our listener in their 30s, a life expectancy calculator could help them estimate how many years they have to experience life, which can be a powerful motivator.
It puts things into perspective for sure.
It does. And then Perkins's fifth rule takes things in a whole other direction.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's rule number 5?
It's about giving money to children or charities early in life.
Way early.
because it's about shifting our perspective from delayed gratification to experiencing the joy of giving while we're alive to see the impact.
So it's about being an active participant in your giving, not just leaving a big inheritance.
Exactly. And it allows you to see the positive effects of your generosity firsthand.
That's a really cool concept.
It is. But, it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
And that's where Perkins' sixth rule comes in. Don't live life on autopilot.
So what's the antidote to autopilot?
It's about regularly reassessing your goals, your values, your priorities.
Making sure you're still on the right track.
Exactly. And it's about asking yourself, am I living a life that reflects who I truly am? Or am I just going through the motions?
That's a good question to ask yourself regularly.
It is. And it ties in perfectly with Perkins' next rule planning in terms of seasons.
Seasons.
Yeah, he argues that life has distinct phases, each with its own unique opportunities and limitations.
Oh, that makes sense. So like what you might enjoy and prioritize in your 30s might be totally different in your 60s.
Right. It's like acknowledging that life isn't linear, it's cyclical, and we need to plan accordingly.
I like that analogy.
So speaking of planning, I think a lot of our listeners, especially those early in their careers, might be wondering about the balance between working hard and actually having time to enjoy life.
Yeah, that's a constant struggle.
It is. And Perkins addresses this in his eighth rule: know when to stop working.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between financial security and having the time to actually enjoy it.
Exactly. It's a reminder that time is precious and we shouldn't work ourselves to death.
Wise words for sure.
They are. And finally, we get to Perkins' ninth and perhaps most daring rule to take big risks early, not later.
What's the rationale behind that?
Well, he believes that you have more time to recover from setbacks when you're younger and that taking calculated risks can lead to greater rewards.
So it's about seizing opportunities while you have the energy and resilience.
Exactly. And it's about not letting fear hold you back from pursuing your dreams.
I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Me too. And, I think back to my own decision to quit my job and travel. It was a big risk, but it ultimately led me to where I am today.
So sometimes those leaps of faith pay off.
They really can. So we've covered a lot of ground here with Perkins' 9 rules.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. So let's take a moment to reflect on all of this, and then we'll come back and dive deeper into the practical applications of Die with Zero. Welcome back to our deep dive into Die with Zero. I hope you all had a chance to let those first 9 rules kind of sink in.
A lot to unpack there for sure.
Definitely. So, we were talking about this hypothetical listener in their 30s trying to balance building a secure future with, actually enjoying life now.
Yeah, that's a tricky balance.
It is. So as we kind of dig deeper into the practical side of this Die with Zero philosophy, what do you think are some key takeaways for our listener?
Well, I think the core message is really about shifting our mindset, right?
From what to what?
From just accumulating wealth, saving every penny.
To actually using those resources to live a richer life.
Exactly. It's not just about the number in your bank account. It's about the experiences you create and the impact you make on the world.
And Perkins really drives home that point about time being our most precious resource, doesn't he?
He does. It's like he's saying, hey, don't wait until you're 65 to start living. Start living now.
Yeah, and that can be both inspiring and a little scary for someone in their 30s who's just starting to build their career and their financial foundation.
Definitely. It's a challenge to balance those things.
It is. And that's where I think Perkins' emphasis on making intentional choices comes in.
Being mindful about how you spend your time and money.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself, what experiences do I want to have in this lifetime? What relationships do I want to nurture? What impact do I want to leave on the world?
Those are some pretty big questions.
They are, but I think they're questions worth asking.
And they can lead to some pretty amazing answers.
And, one of the most talked about aspects of Perkins' philosophy is this idea of aiming to die with zero, which I know can sound a little radical.
Yeah, it definitely gets people's attention.
It does.
Yeah.
So how do we explain this concept to our listener who might be thinking, wait, isn't saving for the future important?
It's about reframing how we think about our resources, right?
So it's not about being reckless or irresponsible with your money.
No, it's about understanding that the true value of money lies in how you use it to create a fulfilling life.
It's about aligning your spending with your values and making sure that you're not putting off living until it's too late.
And it's also about recognizing that experiences and relationships are often more valuable than a big bank account at the end of your life.
I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
And it ties in with this idea of creating a lasting legacy, which Perkins talks a lot about.
Yeah, it's not just about how much money you leave behind, it's about the impact you make on the world and the people you touch.
Exactly. And one of the things that resonated with me was this idea of giving early, both to family and to charities,
Why early?
because it allows you to see the positive effects of your generosity firsthand.
And it shifts your focus from delayed gratification to experiencing the joy of giving in the present.
Exactly. And it's not just about money either. It's about giving your time, your talents, your energy to causes that you believe in.
Yeah, it's about being an active participant in making the world a better place.
And another concept that I found really helpful was Perkins's idea of planning in terms of seasons.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he argues that life has distinct phases, each with its own unique opportunities and limitations.
So, like acknowledging that what you might enjoy and prioritize in your 30s could be totally different from what brings you joy in your 60s.
Right. It's about recognizing that life isn't linear, it's cyclical, and we need to plan accordingly.
It's like embracing the natural ebb and flow of life.
Exactly. And I think this is especially important when it comes to thinking about work life balance, which is something a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, finding that sweet spot between pursuing your career goals and having time for the things that matter most outside of work.
And Perkins actually has a whole rule dedicated to this: know when to stop working.
It's a reminder that time is precious and we shouldn't work ourselves to death.
And it's about recognizing that our worth isn't solely tied to our productivity or how much money we make.
We are valuable and worthy simply by virtue of being alive.
I love that. And it ties in with another one of Perkins' rules: to take big risks early, not later.
Why early?
Well, he argues that when you're younger, you have more time to recover from setbacks and learn from your mistakes.
And you're generally more resilient too.
Exactly. And he encourages us to seize opportunities while we have the energy and the drive.
So it's about not letting fear hold you back from pursuing your dreams or taking a chance on something new.
And, I think back to my own decision to quit my corporate job to travel and pursue photography. That was a huge risk.
And look at you now.
Yeah, it was definitely scary at the time, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
It's a great reminder that sometimes those leaps of faith can lead to incredible things.
We really can. So we've covered a lot of ground here exploring Perkins' philosophy and some of the key concepts from his book.
And I think it's clear that Die with Zero is about much more than just money.
It's a framework for living a life that is rich with experiences, meaning, and a lasting legacy.
It's about making conscious choices, aligning your actions with your values, and making the most of the time you have.
So let's take a moment to reflect on all of this, and then we'll come back and dive deeper into the practical applications of Die with Zero.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Die with Zero. We've been talking about Bill Perkins' philosophy and his 9 rules for aligning our resources with our experiences and, really making the most of our lives.
Yeah, and I think one of the most powerful questions that came out of that discussion was the one you posed earlier.
You mean the one about what experience we'd regret not having if we were to die with unspent resources?
Yeah, that one.
It's a real thought provoker, isn't it?
It is. It forces you to kind of confront your deepest desires and ask yourself what you might be holding yourself back from.
It's a way to really get to the heart of what matters most to you.
Exactly. So thinking about that question for myself,
Yeah.
I think I would regret not spending enough quality time with loved ones. Life gets so busy and it's easy to let those connections slip away.
I hear that. For me, it's probably not having seen more of the world. There are so many incredible places out there to explore.
So many different cultures and experiences.
Exactly. It's a reminder that the world is vast and there's always something new to discover.
And that life is short.
Definitely. So we shouldn't wait for someday to pursue those things that light us up.
Couldn't agree more.
And Pucky's book, Die with Zero, gives us the tools and strategies to actually make those things happen.
It's a practical guide to aligning our resources with our experiences and creating a life that is truly fulfilling.
So if you're finding yourself resonating with this philosophy, I highly recommend checking out the book. It's a game changer.
It really is. And remember, this deep dive has just been a starting point.
Yeah, this is just a taste.
The journey of aligning your resources with your experiences is a personal one. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and making adjustments along the way.
And being kind to yourself throughout the process.
Definitely. There will be ups and downs and moments of doubt. But the key is to keep moving forward, keep experimenting, keep learning.
And keep coming back to those core values.
Absolutely. So take what you've learned today. Reflect on what truly matters to you and start creating a life that is rich with experiences, meaningful connections, and a lasting legacy.
Don't wait to start living.
That's the message.
Well said. And until next time, keep diving deep.
Happy exploring, everyone.